Well, we've had an opportunity to cover lots of news, in this case politics, weather, storytelling, comedy, humor. Let's get into some sports. And there's nobody more fun to argue about moves the Red Sox make on an evening game when you're seeing this guy who we're about to honor. He comes back to the station with all the sound from the interviews from any sport, and he knows it all. Ladies and gentlemen, please watch the screen for our tribute to Jonny Miller.
Next to Jonny, the hot seat.
Yes. Okay, Chris, talk about the game tonight. You gave up 3 home runs. I'm sure you are disappointed. What happened tonight?
There's too many hittable pitches. On a team like this, they need me to be better, and I haven't been there for them. So I'm standing before you as frustrated as I've ever been.
Have you ever considered throwing your hat in the ring in politics?
No. No. I just wear cool shirts that I get, and use my platform the right way.
Well, I don't have any announcements, so I'm more open for questions.
Is this desperation on the Red Sox part was starting about it?
Oh, no, nothing like that. I don't think I've ever made a move in my career for desperation. That's not how you act. I think it makes sense based upon the circumstances when you look at it. I think it's putting an urgency, which is significantly different than desperation. But I think for us, when you look at Evaldi's scenario, really, and just due to circumstances, it's taken a little bit longer for him to come back than what we would have hoped and he would have hoped.
Well, for all of us from WBZ, it's a very special moment, of course, to welcome this honoree. But before we welcome the honoree, let's welcome the presenter, one of our great scribes and a man who is very close to Jonny. Please welcome from the Boston Globe, Dan Shaughnessy.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jordan. Thanks, everybody. Congratulations to all the honorees here. And I get the best job of the day. I get to introduce Jonny Miller. It's such an honor. I can't even tell you. This is the toughest man I know. Now, I've known a lot of tough guys covering sports in this town for 40 years. Johnny's the toughest. He's born in Newton, cerebral palsy, and Jonny couldn't tie his shoes till he was 9 years old. He's a smart guy. He loves sports. And so his life was going to go in a different path to stay in sports and reading, writing, going to games. Johnny's first game at Fenway Park was 1958 as a fan. I think the family still has the same seats. And goes to Newton High School, Boston University, and has great mentors. You know a lot of them here. We've lost some of them recently. Gil Santos, Clark Booth, Tim Horgan. Johnny's first spring training as a professional in 1975, gathering the sound like you see there, and has never looked back. Next spring will be his 48th spring training in Fort Myers, and I can't wait to be down there with him. Those of us, a lot of you in the room know about Johnny's generosity. It's off the charts. His great friend Robin Young and I were talking earlier, and just invariably when they have the Jimmy Fund Telethon, you'll get a message, oh, Jonny Miller gave $1,000 in your name, or $5,000 in your daughter's name, or whatever. Doesn't want any credit for it. He just gives. Little presents for your kids at graduation, stuff just shows up. Doesn't want anything for it. Little Christmas gifts we get in the mail every year. Just a generous guy. And professionally, he is our Helen Thomas. At the press conferences, he gets asked the first question. The thing doesn't get going until Jonny has. And he asks the hard questions. He's accountable. He's asked the questions the fans want answered, and he gets away with it. I don't know how, because he gets this, it's been unbelievable over the years. I remember one of Johnny's great takeaways was a bad road trip or a bad slump for the Red Sox. And you need Jonny to kick things off in the awkward moment before it starts. And it usually starts with Jonny asking the manager, can it get any worse than this, And we were in Oakland, 9-game trip. This was with, I think it was Butch Hobson back in the day, Butch from Alabama, the whole thing. They were bad those years. And they lost 8 in a row. They won the first game, lost 8 in a row. Last day in Oakland, Another loss, 8 in a row. Mike Greenwell collides with Ellis Burks. Burks gets pulled off on a stretcher. They're going to lose the center fielder for a month or two. And Jonny goes up to Greenwell, and there it is. Mike, can this trip get any worse? And Mike says, well, Jonny, the plane could crash on the way home, I suppose. You know, it's like that. When Hobson was here, you know, the manager, you know, Jonny, he'll ask the irreverent thing and not know. Like, the center fielder in that team, when it wasn't Ellis Burks, was Otis Nixon. And Jonny knew that Butch Hobson was a big watcher of sitcoms, including Andy of Mayberry. So when Otis the town drunk died, you know, I forget the guy's real name, in spring training, John goes up to the manager and says, did you hear that Otis died? And Butch goes, you mean the center fielder or my Otis? He's like, no, your Otis. And that was, I don't know, it doesn't happen like that often. The respect that he gets, I remember Larry Bird. Jonny did a lot of Celtics. People forget, a lot of Celtics. Larry Bird loves Jonny. He could always get away with stuff. Larry hit a game-ending shot against Portland on a Sunday afternoon. He falls into the press row. It goes over the backboard, buzzer beater, 2 seconds on the clock. They're down 1. They win by 2. And after the game, we wait for Larry. He comes out. First question, Jonny says, Larry, did you want the ball at the end of the game? Larry says, no, John, that's why you saw me out there hiding behind the bench. He says, Pedro Martinez, John, the players there, if you don't love Jonny, you're in trouble in the clubhouse. No one will like you. The players, the teammates won't like you, the opponents won't like you, the media won't like you, the fans won't like you. And they all like Jonny for a reason. Pedro Martinez, epic career, greatest Sox pitcher ever. He comes back in '06 with the Mets, first appearance back here. And he looks at that room and he says, where's Jonny Miller? I say, well, Jonny had a little back issues. He's not here today. But no player gets, let me tell you, they don't ask for me when I'm not there. It's like, you know, but he has the respect. And again, last year, incredible, 2018 World Series. Jonny's with us every step of the way, the whole thing. And then we're in LA and it's like, wait, where's Jonny? Oh my God, his flight to LA was diverted to Houston because he had a stroke on the flight to LA for the World Series. And Jonny the plane landed in Houston. His life was saved. He spent time there. Writers went and visited him there. The World Series started that night. Alex Cora said, we're starting off with, you know, a mention of Jonny Miller, who we all love, who should be here asking the first question. We wish him well. And every night of the World Series, Alex Cora, after each game, Jonny Miller gets the first question, now you can start, and would go from there. And this spring in spring training, unbelievable. Jonny, Spalding rehab, and he's back. I couldn't believe it. He's back on the job. And Alex Cora said right away, he says, well, we're just starting spring training. We're hoping to do well this year, which didn't work out too well. And he says, but we already know who the comeback player of the year is. It's Jonny Miller. So comeback player of the year, now in the Hall of Fame. Jonny Miller, Hall of Famer. Come on up here. We'll ask a few questions.
Newspaper guys.
Hi, how's that? I don't know. I think Jonny might have a couple of thank yous to send out here.
First of all, the first question I asked Alex in spring training, who won the World Series? And I would like to thank Danny and Richard for helping me with the film during all those years. And I would also like to thank Gil and Clark Booth and then Tom Cuddy for their guidance. And I would like to thank also Tommy Ahern and John Tortorelli, my engineers starting out. We had to splice the tape. We don't do it anymore, but they helped me a lot.
And Jonny, you have a high standard of journalism, and what are the rules that you live by of your own work ethic and what you expect out of others?
Just accountability. I'm always there all the time. I always try to ask tough questions, and I hope I get the respect from my fellow journalists.
And in your lengthy career, I know about lengthy careers, but what has been, in your world, the best sports story that you've covered in your lifetime?
Oh, it had to be '67 Red Sox winning the last two games of the season against the Twins. That's still one of the high points.
I was a kid, I remember that well. Jonny, one thing, like when the Curse of the Bambino was alive, did you have a sort of it felt like a indoctrination when new players came to join the team? How did you start them off? Do you believe in the curse?
Oh, do you believe in the curse?
What did they generally say?
What curse?
Yeah, they would say what curse until 2003 when Grady Little left Pedro in too long, and then they all knew what we were talking about after that. Among players, and this is an example of Jonny's accountability, and it's like be there the next day, show up. If they have an issue, they've got a piece of you then. But I remember last year this went on with our good friend David Price, who's he's a fine pitcher and a nice young guy and a smart guy. For some reason has been teeing off on Dennis Eckersley for no reason. We disapprove. But he also can be a little playful and provocative in his interviews. So explain what happened with you and David Price. How did it start with you two last year what did you ask him that got him going?
Well, he pitched one of the super games of the season, so I asked him, what were you doing right? And he said, go. Oh, I'm not doing your work for you. Go find out yourself. So the next day I showed up and told him why he was doing so well.
How did you find out what he was doing differently?
I just read Alice Spear's column.
It's not the way I remember it, Jonny. I remember you going deep research, going into the film room, looking at where he was in the rubber, and talking to Dennis Eckersley and doing your homework, and then showing up and said, actually, David Price, you want to know what you're doing differently? Here's what you're doing. And I think he said you were right. He did. He said you were right. The last thing, Jonny, again, it's been such a privilege to see you. I mean, is there two more things, but tell me, is there one story you'd like to relay about your hijinks or your career or anything that you want to share with your fans here?
Yes, in Milwaukee, after the game, some Red Sox player got hurt, so we out down waiting to interview the manager. And this AP guy said, who was the doctor they announced that somebody was going to see tomorrow in Boston? So right away I said, Dr. Win Bates, who was the local writer for the Brockton Enterprise. And it got in the paper.
Yeah. That's not the only, he'll do that. Like, there's a press dining room, there's a sign-in sheet for the press dining room, and Jonny will put down, if we're in Sarasota, he'll put Larry Bird signed in for dinner. And everybody says, wait, Larry Bird's in the ballpark somewhere. It's like, it gets going. Okay, this time I promise. Lastly, Jonny, there was one story that you've got some of the baseball writers, Jim and Bob and Jeff and your peers over there, we've all been talking about. We remember Dan Duquette was GM here, and again, he wasn't the devil. He could be kind of difficult, but Dan was local, and he was GM, and he was not real media friendly. And you were trying to get answers. John doesn't do well when they're being obstinate or obtuse or intentionally averting it. And you were having trouble getting to Duquette, I think, on a Carl Everett question or something. But just tell me how that went down.
Well, I asked Dan a question. He tried to stonewall me. Then I made a comment. Well, even though I have a speech defect, I'm not that dumb. Could you answer the question for me?
Yeah, well, you're not dumb, but you are a Hall of Famer, Jonny.
And for the next season, I had my Major League pass revoked. So I had to call up every city in the country when I went to the games and to get a pass.
There's John Miller, your Hall of Famer.